What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Leverage Redemption Season 1, Episode 12, The Golf Job. So I thought this one was a really good episode for Harry, because so far he's had his moments. He's had his moments throughout the season to step up for the team, to help out. He's also had his down moments as well, where he's maybe screwed up a job, or he's not quite been as committed to the team. Maybe he's been hiding some stuff. But this was a really good one for him, and I feel like it really helps to grow his character, as well as show sort of the inner workings of his mind. I mean, just that one conversation he has with I want to say Sarah. I'm terrible with names, so I still don't remember. But the conversation he has with her, where he basically says, yeah, this is what lawyers do. We help the bad guys. All of our clients, they look to us because we can get them out of jail free. Or not free, but whatever he said. It kind of shows how his mind thinks of himself and his past life and what he used to do. So I thought it was a good real dive into his character and where he is mentally. And I like the fact that he got to hear a story about a lawyer who did help. To hear that lawyers may not be all that bad, and hopefully boost confidence in himself, I would think, because it does seem like he was really down on himself at the beginning of this episode and how he's not really able to help the team that much. So knowing that he is, or at least seeing that he's learning from the team, I thought this was a good episode to showcase that, given all of the different things, obviously outside of fighting from Elliot, but even then, like, he's still learning how to really run the con and work in different facets of this line of life. So I really appreciated everything they did with him in this one. Also kind of fun to see a character from the old show return, because it's funny, he pops in, I'm like, I recognize him from somewhere. And I'm pretty sure he was Butch on Gotham. So that's where I first recognized him. But they started talking about him like they knew him. And that's when it kind of popped back into my head, his whole episode, where they were trying to con him. And then they find out after he's not drinking, he's actually kind of a good guy. So it's kind of funny to see that apparently he's working with them now, working with Leverage International. It's a fun little tie-in. It's a nice little Easter egg for the fans of the original show as well. So I really like that, and I like to see him getting involved, how excited he is to help the team out. It's one I haven't watched Leverage in a while now, because I remember I did binge the whole series before I started Leverage Redemption the first time. But now it's been a while since I watched either Leverage or Leverage Redemption. So I kind of want to go back again and just be like, so what was Hurley's full story again? But I mean, it's a show that's just so good and easily, in my opinion, easily bingeable too. So, but yeah, seeing one of the people that they kind of conned but also helped in the original series, I thought it was a fun tie-in, and they did a good job with him. Seeing him and Elliot working together to scam this guy, pretending to golf and all of that, it was a lot of fun. And I mean, it's just a good team dynamic. I will say the fact that we don't see what Sophie and Parker were doing is a little weird. I know that they're kind of just playing it up. They're off in some other country in some church, and Sophie's pretending to be a priest, and then somebody who's grieving. It was a weird thing, but sometimes those weird things feel like they tie in a little bit more. This felt like it was just weird for the sake of being weird. So I don't know if we'll get any more references to that, or if that was just supposed to be something that, oh, Sophie and Parker off being goofy and wacky in some other country. I'm not entirely sure what that was about, but it was funny for what it was. In my mind, I'm just thinking about possibilities of what they could do with it. But all in all, good episode. I don't know if we're going to see this young girl. Again, I want to say Sarah, but I could be totally wrong about that. I don't know if she's going to play in anymore for the rest of this season or not, but if she does, cool. She was fun to have, and fun to see her sort of realize that Harry was tricking her, but then also realize that he's actually one of the good guys and build up that confidence to help out herself. It was a nice little story. So all in all, good episode. On to the next one. I'll see you there in just a minute. And now episode 13, The Hurricane Job. So yeah, this one was also pretty good. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't your typical Leverage episode where you've got the team setting up a con and all this stuff. This one was more just kind of spur of the moment, helping innocent people in danger, trying to stop the bad guys. It was all well set up and maybe a little too simple at times. There were a couple of moments that I felt were a little weaker than the rest. The first one was the moment where Elliot gets his arm dislocated. That whole scene was just a little weird. You've got the guy grabbing the harpoon gun. Elliot dodges out of the way, cuts a rope, knocks a canoe into Elliot, where he breaks the radio and then dislocates his arm in the process. It feels like you could have just had the guy pull out his gun, shoot at Elliot, and maybe hit the radio because he dodged. Like, I don't know. It felt a little weird because I thought they were trying to make it, oh, he dislocated his arm, he won't be able to fight for the rest of the episode, so they're going to have to rely on somebody else to fight. But then he fights the guy at the end, and it seems like, he's feeling his arm like, ooh, it hurts, but he's still able to fight the guy, no problem. So I don't really understand why. I know they also needed to break the radio, so that way they couldn't keep contacting Sophie. But it feels like there are better ways that you could have done it that did not seem so goofy, at least. So that was a little odd. Also, the scene at the end whenever they're trying to convince, I think it was Boggs. Pretty sure Boggs was the name of Abel's assistant. But they were trying to convince him to turn on him by basically saying, hey, you're not here for the reason you think you are. That whole scene to me felt a little oddly paced, I think is the right word. Because they get in there, they start talking about, hey, you guys don't even know why you're here. And so, of course, the guy's like, what are you talking about? So when they explain about the ticket, that moment feels like it should have been more of a turning point. But instead it was like, I guess the best way to put it is Boggs points the gun at him. Like, what? Why didn't you tell me about the ticket? You're trying to kill us all. And then Abel manages to talk him down. So they put the guns away. And then they cut away to Parker doing something. They cut back. And Elliot again says something. And all of a sudden, Boggs is stopping and punching. He's like, why didn't you tell me about the ticket? And starts turning on him again. And it just felt weird that we went from this. They say this thing that gets Boggs to go, what the hell? They pull their guns on each other. It feels like Boggs maybe turned a corner. Maybe doesn't want to work with him anymore. And then all of a sudden, he puts the gun away. We cut to another scene, we cut back, and suddenly we do the whole thing again where Boggs is suddenly like, oh yeah, so why didn't you tell me about this ticket, huh? Like, I don't know if I could trust you. It just felt like the pacing on the scene overall was not very well handled. It should have been more of a rise up until the climactic moment and then maybe a bit of a drop off. And maybe that's the point whenever Maria and Elliot break off or break out of their little restraints. But instead it was like rise, climax, drop off. And then all of a sudden rise. And then Elliot and Maria break out of their handcuffs for the climax again. I just don't really understand that. But everything else with this episode was fine. Seeing Harry out in the field again, a lot of fun to see him dress up as a doctor. Honestly, when he was going through that whole slew of medical jargon, my thought was, sounds like he's just spouting all stuff he's seen on some sort of like Grey's Anatomy, something like that. So at the end, whenever Sophie asked him where he learned all of that, he's like, TV. I was like, well, that kind of makes sense. But no, seeing him get more involved is a lot of fun. It's a little weird that Brianna's not been involved for the past 2 episodes. I don't know what's going on with her. Maybe the actress wasn't able to be on set for some reason. I don't know if we're going to get any sort of, I guess, talking about her and figuring out why she's not been involved. I might look up later and see why she wasn't here for these 2 episodes, but not having her, I mean, it's not the biggest loss, because obviously I'm not a huge fan of her character. She's grown on me as the seasons progressed. She still does have that sort of, I'm young and hip and cool, and I'm cooler than all of you sort of energy about her that I'm just not a big fan of in characters generally. The last thing I want to talk about is the whole Elliot and Maria thing. I do think the scene with Parker at the end, claiming that Elliot might leave the team, I did feel like that was a little bit weak. Like, I didn't get a sense from Elliot that he was thinking, or even that Parker would get the sense that he was thinking about leaving. It just seemed like a weak reason for Parker to not like Maria. But as far as Elliot and Maria are concerned, this is a relationship that I would be interested to see if we're going to see more of it. because it does seem very genuine. It feels very natural. I don't know if Maria's been seen before, either in the original show or earlier this season. She's not a character that I recognized, but then again, it doesn't necessarily mean anything because, I mean, my memory is not great when it comes to characters or names. But it is a character that I wouldn't mind seeing more of because I liked what they were showing us between her and Elliot and that sort of camaraderie there. It was a nice little moment and something that I felt really nice for Elliot to have because he has been through a whole lot of awful shit. So to see him have somebody like Maria in his life, I would like to see that expanded upon a little bit more. But with all that being said, I think that's it for this episode. So on to the final of these three. I'll see you there in just a minute. And finally, episode 14, The Great Train Job. So this one, I kind of knew what I was going to expect because the description literally says that 2 local farmers are attacked by a hate group. And so based on that description, I kind of got the sense of what this episode was going to be. And I was pretty much right. It's the typical preachy, propaganda-y type of episode that, when did this season? 2021? Yeah, that's basically any time between, I would say, 2017 and now. It's been, every show has had episodes like this. So far, I mean, this season of Leverage Redemption, they've had their moments where they've been very, we gotta represent, we gotta show why all these bad things are bad. But they've been more moments in episodes. This is the first one where the whole episode is, hey guys, sexism, racism, homophobia, don't know why I lost the word there. All of that is bad. Duh. And it's one of those, every time I see it, it's never done well because it's never subtle. It's never done with good storytelling. Anytime I see it in a show, it's always just bash you over the head with it. Just constantly tell you why it's bad to hate on other people. And I'm just sitting here going, I mean, most people know this. The only people who don't know this are the people like the ones represented in this episode, and they are very few and far between. They're probably not watching this show, and even if they did, watching this show is not going to make them go, oh, I'm like those bad guys, I should stop. No, they're hard-headed, stubborn, and they believe what they believe. They're not going to stop if you tell them they're evil. So I just never understand these types of episodes. It feels, again, it's not subtle, it's overdone, it's heavy-handed as hell, and it's even got a little, reference to, oh, stand by, stand back, and all the liberals are going, oh, they made a reference to that bad man, they made him an evil dude, oh, I love that. It's lazy writing is what it is. It's basically the writers going, we know how to pander to people, so we're going to write in all of this stuff, we're going to make it super obvious, super apparent, so the dumb audience members watching this can really hone in and know exactly what we're saying. And it's lazy, it's condescending, honestly. It's all these things that every time I see an episode like this, I have to wonder how many people are watching this and are going, yes, give me more of this. And how many are actually going, I mean, okay, and this was fine, but could we move on to something more entertaining? Because outside of that, there were some okay moments. I thought the moments between Elliot and Harry were well done enough. I enjoyed some of their little back and forth. I did enjoy the moment when Elliot asked him how long he thought he could go with this, because it's something I haven't seen much talked about with Harry as far as this whole possibility that he's hiding something. So I'm not sure, because I had a thought earlier, actually in the last review that I did on this, I had a thought that maybe there's something going on with him. Maybe there's something behind the scenes that we don't know about. We did see he talk to a former employer of his. So I did have the question of, is there something going on with Harry that we don't know about? Maybe we'll find out a secret about him later on. But they seem to have gone away from that in the past few episodes. We haven't really discussed this idea that he's hiding something from the team. So I'm kind of getting the sense that maybe we're not going to do that. And maybe it's about him trying to redeem himself. It's about him trying to come away from this whole idea that what he did in the past defines who he is now. Because we've seen that a little bit more, I think, recently. So it feels like maybe that's what we're leading to toward the end of the season. But I really like that scene between him and Elliot because it really shows not only where his mindset is starting to go now, but also I liked what Elliot said to him about staring his past in the face and still trekking on anyway, still digging deeper. It really does show where Harry's character where his character is at the moment. So I like what they're doing with that. And even the whole scene where Elliot fights off all of the guys, but Harry comes in with the car, tries to hit the one guy, but then the brakes auto engage. I don't think I've ever seen that gag done before, where somebody goes to hit somebody with their car to take out the bad guy, but the auto engage actually screws them over. That it was one that did have me laughing pretty hard. But that was kind of the one moment in the episode, whereas everything else was just really, again, heavy-handed with the whole, hey, these bad guys are bad. And it's not entertaining. Even the one scene where Sophie is talking to the guy in his private room and he's making all these moves on her. It's one of those, she's a grifter. Like, she's supposed to pretend like she's into him. She's not actually into them. We know this. We know he's a disgusting slime ball. We get this. But instead they have to like really overplay it where she's like, ooh, please don't touch me. I'm like, that's not how a grifter works. She has to pretend that she's into it. Brianna's like, ooh, Sophie, swipe left on this guy. She's not actually into him. She's pretending to be for the con. But they have to play it up like, guys, no, he's really bad. We know he's the bad guy. We get it. If she was doing this to any other guy in any other con, it would just be her pretending to be into him making the moves, her pretending to be into his moves, and we'd move on. But for some reason in this episode, because they think the audience is too dumb to realize why this guy's a bad guy, so we need to really emphasize he's a bad guy by having Sophie constantly be disgusted by him, and then Brianna constantly, Sophie, swipe left. It's ridiculous. You know, and again, it just shows these writers, they think that the more heavy-handed they are, the more obvious they are, the more they're going to be praised for really speaking out against this hate. Most people know this kind of hate is ridiculous. It's stupid. It's not necessary. To hate on anybody based on race, sex, social or sexual preference, any of this stuff. To hate on anybody for a singular thing is kind of stupid. Unless they're a murderer. That's a different story. But it's just, most people know this now. And anybody who doesn't know this by this point, you're probably not going to change their mind. Or they're just doing it to get attention. Either way, the best thing to do is to ignore them until they die out. Because at some point, if you stop talking about it so much, if you stop giving these idiots the attention that they so crave, eventually people are going to stop noticing that stuff and we can actually move on, and it would be almost like it doesn't even exist anymore because it probably will not in the future. So I don't know. I'm just, I realize I ranted a little bit about this, but this is just one where I've not had an episode like this in a while. I've not seen, because, you know, the CW shows, they had it, but I've not watched any of those CW shows in a bit. So I've been more focused on shows where the main focus is telling whatever story is going on. They don't take all this time to stop an episode or to have an episode about, hey guys, let's talk about why hate is bad. So to get back into a show where that is something that's going to pop up and to have a whole episode about it, it gets draining. Because I just want to watch and be entertained. I don't want to be talked down to like I'm some idiot who doesn't know that hating on other people is bad. And it gets really, really frustrating to me. especially because they like to paint people like me as being the haters, the one that do the stuff that we see. So anyways, I won't rant about it anymore. But yeah, this episode overall, not great. Definitely not my cup of tea, but even looking past the fact that it's not my cup of tea, I just don't feel like it. I don't feel like they did a good job of making it a good Leverage episode. It felt like they got sidetracked. They had too many moments of characters acting kind of out of character. Oh, the Mountie thing. I will say the Mountie thing was kind of funny. That was one thing that I forgot to talk about. It did feel a little wasted though, because as much as they built up the Mounties and they talked about it, it just basically became they had the Mounties arrest him at the end of this episode. That was kind of all it really led to, and I was expecting maybe a little bit more with that. So maybe a missed opportunity, but the way they talked about the Mounties was at least funny. But yeah, all in all, just an episode for me. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 3 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Leverage Redemption reviews. And until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you all later. Peace out.